off. Then you'll take up the whole screen, Gleb.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah, just pin me to the screen and make it full screen.
Okay, I've done that. I think. Yes. Right. Everyone can see you, everyone can hear you. The floor is yours.
Excellent. Well, welcome everyone. Hope you've been having a good day so far. And let's talk about how generative AI can be useful for you in office design. So that's what we'll be focusing on. That's the shape of the conversation. Now, what we'll talk about today, I'm just going through quickly what we'll talk about. We'll talk about how generative AI can reshape office design effectively, then tools that you can use to improve your workflow using generative AI and some machine learning AI. So both of those. How do you prepare your teams to embrace generative AI tools? Again, all tools focusing on generative AI especially. Managing risks. So you want to make sure that your team is ready, but you also want to address risks associated with generative AI. And then finally, what are the practical steps for you for generative AI implementation? So that's going to be the shape of the presentation. That's what we'll talk about today. What I'll do is I'll go for the talk, and then you can write down questions while you have them, and we'll save the questions for the end. So just that'll bear with me. That'll be easiest for this kind of presentation where I'm coming in virtually. All right, talking about part one, using generative AI. So the fit out industry is undergoing rapid change, of course, and I'm sure you've seen that quite extensively. Hybrid work is one main changer, where it's shifting client demands toward more flexible layouts. So it, of course, there are a number of companies that are going back to office full time. There are still a number of companies that are retaining hybrid offices, and there are some companies that are demanding fully flexible offices because they're not quite sure what they're going to do. So that's one demand, more flexible layouts. Then another demand is increasing need for wellness-focused sustainable spaces. People are concerned about burnout. It's a major, major issue. So that's something that more and more clients demand. Another is, of course, always demand, but now there's more pressure on faster and more personalized solutions, where people are seeing faster and more personalized solutions in other areas of their work. And so naturally, they're demanding that from the office design industry. Design timelines are growing shorter. And then, of course, expectations are growing higher, partially because they're seeing what's happening again in other industries and other tech-enabled industries. Unfortunately, traditional processes are not great to meet these needs, all of these needs. They're costly, slow, and inefficient as ever. Generative AI is a solution to this question. It automates lots of repetitive tasks that are plenty in office design. It frees people to be more creative and do higher level tasks. It delivers accurate design options in hours instead of weeks. Yes, that's hours instead of weeks. It uses data to predict client and occupant preferences over time. That's more of the machine learning part where it's the prediction. So the earlier one is the design generation, then here is prediction. That's the machine learning part. So machine learning, generative AI is about analyzing data and predicting data based on analysis, and generative AI is about generating new content, new designs. So those go hand in hand, of course. It enables large-scale customization without extra costs, and that's the generative AI component where you can customize things, innovate things without additional or at least major costs. And it can help you reduce errors through precise analytics. The best approach is to have a combination of humans and generative AI because those can address each other's errors, which is great. Generative AI can be helpful for team collaboration if used appropriately. It generates clear, clean design briefs from relatively simple client input that the team can then customize. It automates documentation, which can save you many, many hours of manual work. It enhances communication with instant language translation. You're now in Romania, obviously. Not all of you are from Romania, and you need to figure out how to communicate across different languages in the EU, in the UK. Those are big issues. So that can help you address language barriers. It quickly transforms team brainstorms into actionable clear tasks. And it simplifies feedback loops between clients and designers, because clients can also, if you give them access to tools that you can use with generative AI, that can help improve the designs. And if you have more client buy-in, well, then you have more engagement and high clients are happier. Let's talk about generated images, AI-generated images and 3D model design specs. It can create detailed office layouts rapidly just from a description of an office layout. It instantly visualizes multiple layouts and furnishing options, which is very nice. It allows those real-time client revisions. Again, you can provide them with some access to the tools that you use. We'll talk about tools in the next section, and that improves their satisfaction. It reduces costly prototyping by simulating design outcomes instead of creating prototypes, models that you have to create in digital format, sometimes in physical format. This creates much quicker digital models and enables immersive virtual reality walkthroughs before construction, which is a very nice thing for clients who can actually visualize what the office layout will look like. Predictive analytics. So this is more of the machine learning component, the earlier versions of AI. It forecasts occupant preferences using historical data. So that's very nice, especially for the more flexible companies that you work with, which have not 9 to 5 full-time in the office. It identifies patterns that can optimize workspace utilization over time. So helping your clients improve the way that they organize their workspaces. It predicts what clients will want to change and helps proactively adapt their designs. The best situation is where you can proactively anticipate client needs, and clients are really happy when you can do that. It anticipates maintenance needs, so reducing costs and improves long-term ROI, because you can say, okay, if this type of design, this is the kind of maintenance you need, and the clients can decide what they want to do about that. It also, so that's one in terms of design. The other one is it can anticipate the need for maintenance before something breaks down, which is also nice, and provides insights for strategic design decisions upfront. The earlier you can make changes to designs, I mean, how much money do you spend and the client spend when the client realizes later onward in the design process that there's an issue with their earlier designs that needs to be updated. And so that's not a situation you want to see. What you'll ideally want to do is you want to make any design changes upfront. So this helps you anticipate what the kind of changes might be necessary and address them earlier on in the design process. Okay, so that's the first part of using generative AI. Let's talk about the second part, generative AI tools for office design. Might have heard of the number of these, you might not have, but let's go through them and talk about each tool. I'll give you some examples. One is Cubic. It's AI-driven office space planning. It generates optimized layouts for office space, and that's issues like daylight, workstations, acoustics. I can hear things, geography of people, locations. Acoustics are a major issue, which that's hard to predict. And of course, people are right now more sensitized to noise after having been working from home for a long time. It enables a rapid creation of office plans that are highly customized without the need for architectural expertise. And of course, you have architectural expertise, and that really helps. And then you can see, okay, here are the office designs, and you can customize them more to the client. But you don't need a lot of architectural expertise to use these tools, which is a nice thing because you can get your client more engaged in creating the office space design plan. It facilitates quick and efficient decision-making in office design because you can change things quickly, experiment with things, try out new layouts. So that's very helpful. It reduces planning time as a result of that. It helps you accelerate project timelines, which saves you money and saves the clients money. Always nice. It enhances client engagement through nice visualizations. So this is another bonus as well, that clients are engaged because they can visualize things more effectively. That's an example. That's one tool, Cubic. Another is Autodesk Fusion. What does that do? It creates and evaluates multiple design options based on specific parameters. So you have given specific parameters, it creates and looks at multiple designs based on that, and it optimizes the structural components and layouts for performance and material efficiency. It helps you have more cost-effective and innovative office designs as a result. And so combining the, again, cost-effectiveness, innovativeness, because of you can look at the various structural components and see what you want to do. It integrates design, engineering, and manufacturing processes, which is very nice, and helps you streamline collaboration across multidisciplinary teams. Again, various office designs, engineering, manufacturing. So it can get manufacturing involved. It can help get you can use this to collaborate with your suppliers for the manufacturing components. So that's a benefit as well. Okay, build-outs. This is for actually implementing the project. It monitors the process of construction, so what is going on in various stages of the construction project. It compares real-time site conditions with planned designs and see where you are at which stage. It enhances project management with insights based on that comparison of where you are compared to where you plan to be. And it identifies potential delays and discrepancies between the various elements of the project. It ensures that timely project completion is within the horizon of what you want to accomplish through continual oversight. So one of the biggest things in terms of project management is having continual oversight of all the suppliers, all the contractors, all the people who are actually working on the project. And this helps you address that. This helps you make sure that, hey, you can constantly compare what's going on currently with what's supposed to be going on according to the stage. And then you can change it based on, okay, here are some delays, and here's something that we can tweak to address these delays. And improves communication with stakeholders with accurate progress data. So various stakeholders who are involved can get access to this tool, and they can put their input in, and that helps the tool monitor and communicate effectively to collaborate with various stakeholders. So that's the tool for managing the design process. And finally, I want to talk about a tool that you might be more familiar with, Midjourney. And it's similar to a number of other tools. That's actually, and lots of clients are familiar with tools like this, like DALL-E and Midjourney. What it does is converts textual descriptions into more detailed visual concepts. So that's quite helpful, that you can have a detailed description of a client wants something, and you can have that's textual, and you can get that into a visual concept. It allows designers to produce visuals for proposed office designs. And it's not as specialized as the tools I mentioned before, but it's easier to work with. So clients find it quite easy to work with Midjourney. And so if you collaborate with them on Midjourney, you can create a shared account or something like that, then that helps you collaborate more effectively with clients. It enhances client presentations and feedback loops. One of the nice things about it is you can use it to create nice slides for PowerPoints and nice visual elements that go into presentations more easily than some of the other more specialized tools. It facilitates exploration of creative and innovative design ideas effectively and quickly, and supports creative brainstorming with instant visual outputs. And there are other similar tools like DALL-E, Canva, and so on. Now, let's talk a little about using these tools for enhanced office design. So you can integrate these AI tools, experiment with them, see which ones fit your needs. You're all in distinct areas of office design. So some of them will be more applicable to you, and some of them will be less applicable to you. They'll help you streamline your design and construction processes. You just need to experiment with them and see which one fits your needs in the context of what you're doing. It enhances your creativity, efficiency, and safety. So it helps you increase safety as well, not simply creativity and efficiency, because you don't need to, you can look at especially Autodesk Fusion and Build and Qubits. It can evaluate things around safety. It positions you at the forefront of more innovative workplace solutions. Believe me, clients want to work with firms that are tech savvy and are using these tools. And the clients want to see you using these tools because they know it will help them get the quickest product at the best price in the most innovative way. And it helps you be more continuous learners and adapters of emerging technologies because generative AI is moving very quickly and it's going to displace a lot of work in the next several years. It has already displaced significant work in the last couple of years. It's going to do much more in the next several years. And you want to be at the cutting edge of adoption because you want to get the maximum mileage out of generative AI tools. And helps you get more client satisfaction because you'll have more personalized and efficient design outcomes on which your clients can collaborate and get buy-in into the final outcome. All right. What about getting your team to use these generative AI tools? So we talked about the benefits of these generative AI tools. Talked about in the first part, we talked about their benefits in general. The second part was talked about the specific tools that you should be using. But how do you get your team to use these tools? The key is overcoming resistance. And I have a book I'm writing about this topic for Georgetown University Press called The Psychology of Generative AI Resistance. The Psychology of Generative AI Adoption from Resistance to Results. It's a big, big issue. People have a lot of resistance to generative AI, and you've probably seen that within your own companies. People really fear job displacement and reduced roles for designers. So the job displacement, meaning not having a job, or reduction of people's roles, worries about, hey, will I lose the fun part of what I do? What about this AI tool? Is it going to take away the fun stuff? And how do I even think about it? Where previously I've been able to do this work and I take pride in doing this work, but now this tool is taking away things that I take pride in, right? It's not a comfortable feeling. So people are concerned about that. They're concerned about job displacement, not having a job. They're concerned about the the pride and identity of what they did now being done by generative AI. They're concerned just about change management, about getting used to a new tool. So there's a lot of concerns about this new tool with the belief that AI systems are difficult to use, they're very complex, especially people who take a lot of pride in their skills and who are in their late 40s, 50s, early 60s, who still have maybe a decade, maybe a few years left of work in them. That's really good, but they're not very comfortable with adapting to new technology. And so there's a lot of discomfort, especially among older folks who are senior, very well established, highly credible people who in your organization who are concerned about these tools and how they will impact their ability to do their jobs because they're not comfortable with these new tech tools. There's also misconceptions, perhaps misconceptions that AI diminishes human creativity. And it's a partially a misconception, partially not. I said misconception because there are certainly misconceptions around it, but there are certain areas where AI is creative. But human creativity will still be very much needed, but it will be needed in a different area. It will be needed in the area of customizing the designs to the needs of the clients because it's your designer who has much more of the context, understands the needs of the client. But some of the areas where people were creative in new office designs will be taken over by generative AI, and we need to understand that. So there's misconceptions and reality, and we need to address the misconceptions part of the loss of creativity because there'll still be creativity. It will just be creativity not in generating the design itself, but in customizing it to the needs of the client. There is anxiety about reliability and accuracy of AI outputs, and that's of course something that was more the case a couple of years ago when there are quite a bit more hallucinations. Now, that doesn't mean that everything's perfect right now, but a lot of the hallucinations that were there in the past have been addressed. And so it's a matter of learning how to spot the situations where AI output might not be very reliable and where there might be hallucinations and address those situations going forward. And there's concerns over loss of control. So people are worried that they will lose control. They take a lot of pride in their ability to control the process and have the right decisions and own the decisions. And there's concerns about what will happen as they potentially lose control and AI makes those decisions. And that's something to really think about the kind of collaboration that humans and generative AI tools have together. what you want to do to address these concerns is focus on creating a culture of innovation, psychological safety. You've probably heard that term. So my friend Amy Edmondson came up with it. It's about the idea that you should be able to experiment and try new things without any penalties for making new mistakes as long as you learn. So the idea is not no penalties. That's not the idea. People have a lot of misconceptions about this concept. The idea is not that you don't have penalties for people. The idea is that if you want people to innovate and be creative, you need them to be able to innovate and have new ideas and make mistakes. The right amount of mistakes, in other words, is not zero. People should make mistakes. If they're not making mistakes, they're not trying hard enough. And they should not be penalized for making new mistakes as long as they learn from them. So if they continually, repeatedly make the same mistakes, totally appropriate to penalize them. If they make mistakes, new mistakes, but don't take the effort and time to learn from them, that's also problematic. But if they make new mistakes and generally, obviously, without intending to make a mistake and learn from it and take the learning from it, they should be praised and they should be supported. So that's what provides an environment of psychological safety, where people feel safe in going forward, going out on limb, taking risks, and they'll feel they'll be supported by their team members, they'll be supported by their leaders. So that's psychological safety. Psychological safety is part and parcel of promoting curiosity and openness to new technologies. And again, that's especially hard for older, more established folks at your companies. You want to highlight positive case studies from the experience of other organizations and from within your own company to illustrate the value that generative AI brings. Involve external AI experts to help inspire confidence, because again, you don't have necessarily generative AI expertise within your own company, and you can bring those external experiences and experts, through experts, you can bring those external experiences to your companies. Provide forums that will discuss fears and challenges. So you don't want to just let these things simmer under the rug. You want to have people talk about them openly and honestly to address their fears. Of course, you want to do some anonymous surveys to actually get people's fears more out into the open. And once those fears are more out into the open, you can launch a forum to discuss the results of the survey and to get at these challenges so that people can get them addressed. And you want to reward teams and individuals who proactively adapt new generative AI solutions and create case studies that are going to be relevant and helpful for your needs. Think about continuous learning and upskilling. That's going to be the key to success and even survival in the generative AI world. Offer resources like training, webinars, and tutorials. You're right now training yourself. So make sure to offer trainings, webinars, and tutorials to your teams on this topic. Workshops from external experts who help your team build familiarity with generative AI tools themselves and the design tools that I mentioned earlier. Definitely valuable for that. And also just how to work with generative AI, how to use NLP, natural language programming, how to prompt it, all of those sorts of things. People need to learn about that. And people often just treat generative AI like a search tool, which is not how it should be treated. It should be treated like an intern, like a companion, like a colleague, but you're just one who is kind of not that skilled yet. So you can think of it as an intern that's infinitely patient and is willing to work 24 hours a day, but has certain skill deficiencies, and people need to learn how to treat generative AI effectively. Develop in-house champions. I can guarantee to you that some people in your firms are already using generative AI. You want to identify them and develop them into champions who will be peer mentors for team members to get others who are more hesitant, skeptical, to learn generative AI effectively. Invest in courses tailored to your team roles and needs. So think about courses that are going to be design focused for designers, that are going to be whatever, engineer focused for engineers, whatever topics you're working on, sales focused for sales, whatever topics they're working on, then you should be customized to their needs. And have clear pathways for professional growth with AI skills. So you'll want to think about in the longer term having people have roles like AI designer lead, AI marketing lead, those sorts of roles that come with appropriate titles and appropriate incentives for people to see themselves growing into generative AI leadership roles. Make sure to have transparent communication. Clearly and honestly articulate the specific benefits of AI for your different teams and different roles within your company. What are the current limitations and risks of generative AI? You need to know about that in order to articulate those things effectively. And we'll talk about the risks in a bit. That'll be the next section. Have success stories to demonstrate practical impacts, especially from your company, but again, from other companies as well. Establish open channels for questions and concerns. The forums I mentioned earlier is one channel, but also something like a Microsoft Teams channel or a Slack channel where people can share questions and concerns, and you can have open discussions about that. And have regular updates to prevent misinformation and anxiety. Otherwise, things will spread through the grapevine and people will be concerned about things like job loss and displacement. So you want to have clear updates and transparency about what's going on. Okay, adopt effective change management practices. Start small. Manageable pilot projects are essential. So when I help companies adopt generative AI, I always start with pilot projects among people who are excited about generative AI adoption, often those who are already using generative AI themselves before the company started the official rollout of generative AI tools. Have external AI advisors for initial projects. It's especially important that the pilots go well, so having someone who has been there before is very helpful. And then involve teams early to get a sense of ownership. So you have individuals who are participating, then getting teams involved, especially cross-disciplinary teams from different departments, can build ownership. Have realistic expectations and timelines for adoption. A lot of companies are too optimistic about how long it will take to adopt generative AI. I've seen that too often. So be realistic about how long it will take. Gather feedback to refine AI implementation before rolling it out. So we have, yes, you have a pilot project, gather a lot of feedback before rolling it out more broadly. And have the leaders, you, visible and participate in this change. So make sure that you're using generative AI and you're talking about how you use generative AI, whether it's to summarize reports, whether it's to write a tough email, whether it's to create memos for the company, whether it's to have performance evaluation and feedback summaries. There are lots of ways that you as leaders can use generative AI tools effectively. Pilot projects. Let's talk a little bit about pilot projects. Have pilots with clear and achievable objectives. Again, this is what I've worked on with a lot of companies, and that's based on this experience. Clear and achievable objectives are really important. External experts, I mentioned that, providing guidance, and have enthusiastic team members as early adopters in this pilot project. Have those early wins that you get celebrated widely to motivate wider, broader adoption in your company. Document and share pilot results company-wide and be honest and transparent about any problems. You want people to perceive you as honest and transparent, and that will help address any problems with generative AI adoption because you'll say, okay, here are the problems we identified, here's how we're fixing them before the broader rollout. And have pilots refine processes before that full rollout. Measuring success. Identify clear metrics. What goal are you trying to achieve with generative AI? Are you trying to save time? Are you trying to reduce errors? Are you trying to improve client satisfaction, to improve innovation? Track those improvements in client satisfaction, efficiency, innovation, whatever you're trying to do. Regularly report progress to your broader team against established benchmarks. So again, the more transparent you can be, the better it is, but at least talk about this with your leadership team. Adjust goals based on data from early implementation. So again, you're going to try things out with pilots, and then you want to adapt it. Things don't, when you do a pilot, it's generally going to be the most enthusiastic people. So don't expect the result to scale quite as much as the most enthusiastic people. I've seen pilots that improve productivity on a project by 40 to 50%, then when they're scaled out, they improve productivity by 15 to 25%. Now that's a wonderful improvement, but people get disappointed. They're like, well, why is this not 40%? That's because the initial people who are involved in the pilot already use generative AI. They were maybe shadow users, which is a term for unapproved generative AI usage. So they might have been shadow users, and also they're really enthusiastic. And so what worked best for them is not going to work quite as well for the rest of the company. So you need to be aware of that. And clearly connect the benefits of AI to the business outcomes. What business outcomes do you want to achieve? All right, moving onward. Let's talk about issues around AI risks, compliance, and ethics. Prioritize confidentiality. So client office design data needs to be kept confidential, and your clients should know that, hey, we're using generative AI and we're using it in this way that will keep your data confidential within our secure platform. You can be using Microsoft Copilot or ChatGPT Enterprise or other customized tools, or Desk Fusion and so on. They keep the information within your company. Implement secure storage for more sensitive project information. So securely store things in clouds, servers, and so on. Train your teams to use generative AI designs responsibly. So make sure that there's training for your teams. Again, some of them are sure already using generative AI, and they might not be using it in the most responsible way because they haven't been trained on doing so. So you will make sure that they're trained on doing so. And I talked about communicating the data protection information to clients and use enterprise level generative AI that helps minimize privacy risks. Address bias. Regularly audit AI tools for fairness and inclusivity. That's quite important, of course, in office design inclusivity. Ensure the training data reflects diverse occupant populations. So all sorts of folks who are going to be occupying the place, you need to make sure that the data reflects their diversity. Verify that designers meet accessibility and cultural sensitivity standards. So again, thinking about cultural sensitivity, you're working in different areas of Europe and even around the world. There are going to be different aspects and questions around cultural sensitivity. Include human oversight to spot unintended biases early. So make sure that you're not just, it's easy to slip into just letting generative AI generate designs, and you want to spot these issues early and see, okay, here's where it tends to be biased, here's where it tends to give inaccurate things, here's that pattern, we can spot it and we can address these problems up ahead. Legal and compliance standards. So they're current with building codes, of course. You want to think about that. I'm sure you're thinking about that. AI might not be aware of all the context of all the building codes, so you need to feed it that data. Industry-specific AI regulations, that's something to be concerned about depending on which industry you work with, finance and so on. Different areas. Ensure legal and compliance experts in AI design and implementation plans. So make sure that people who know about compliance, legal issues, as you're rolling out your generative AI, that you get them involved effectively. Clearly document how AI-driven decisions impact project outcomes. That, if you're working in the EU has an AI plan law that requires you to document how AI-driven decisions are impacting project outcomes. So there's documentation required for a number of these sorts of things where AI shapes decision-making. Maintain transparency with not simply clients, but other stakeholders. So thinking about various stakeholders, they want to know, and you'll want to be able to tell them how you're using AI. And prepare for future regulatory changes affecting office fit-outs. So thinking about this topic, regulation, what's coming down the pipeline, that is an interesting and important issue depending on where you're working. So again, the EU AI law, if you're working in other global contexts, whatever's happening, some countries might have certain restrictions. I remember Italy banned ChatGPT at one point. So thinking about these issues. Governance and risk management. Have governance guidelines for AI integration. So thinking about who in your company is responsible for various governance structures, compliance, risk management, decision-making, some people from IT, HR, legal, whatever. Have regular risk assessments of AI-generated design outputs. So again, for various inclusivity issues, various other challenges, bias, and so on. And evaluate AI tools thoroughly before adopting them company-wide through the pilot projects that I mentioned. So as you launch a pilot, also make sure to have a risk assessment on the outcomes of the pilot. Oversight. Monitor potential safety issues from automated design decisions. So again, they're not perfect yet, and humans can catch some issues that AI will not catch. Ensure that human accountability is central. So humans need to be accountable, and they need to be trained on how to spot issues with generative AI. So thinking about this combination of human and generative AI is going to get you the best outcome. Balance innovation with proven safety and reliability standards, and continuously adapt strategies because AI is really getting better and better over time. And you'll like just this week there were some new image generation tools that came out with OpenAI and other labs came out with new image generation tools that are improving all the time the kind of designs that you can provide. So be aware and keep track of what's going on for improvements. What about long term? So you might have heard about long-term AI risks. This is important from the perspective of governance, because in the long term, there's a danger of AI not being aligned with human values. And to the extent that you can control that is within your own internal oversight committees and what kind of tools you're choosing. So conduct risk assessments and scenario planning for the tools that you're choosing to make sure that the tools you're choosing are safety conscious and aligned with long-term human values. So there's poor safety guardrails. And unfortunately, the issue with safety and generative AI is that most of the time, or people are insufficiently aware of safety and alignment to pay for safe tools and well-aligned tools. And you as office design experts, you need to be thinking about safety. And so you want to be conscious of what AI tools are more safety oriented and which ones are not. And which ones actually, because they're not safety oriented, they might cause long-term risks that we're not aware of. Economic motivations can lead to harm, and even ideological motivations can lead to harm. If, for example, let's say there are some companies like Meta that are producing open sourced AI tools. The challenge with open sourced AI tools is that it's very easy to break the safety guardrails on open sourced AI tools. And so I strongly discourage you, for example, from using open sourced AI tools because bad actors can break the safety guidelines on those tools and hack them and mess them up in various ways. So you want to discourage companies from building open source AI tools and you want to not use them yourself because ideologically motivated hostile actors can be quite problematic when they hack those open sourced AI tools. So but even closed sourced AI tools can be problematic if they don't consider safety guidelines. So you want to really work with AI tools that are focused on safety. So advocate for safety. Okay, moving on to practical steps for implementation. Match AI solutions to your typical project scale. Small remodels, that's good for intuitive, more easy to use tools that clients can easily check out. Large enterprise projects need robust and customizable AI platforms, like the ones I mentioned before, Qubit and so on. Evaluate software based on ease, cost, and scalability. So again, using scalability is really important. You don't want to use a tool that's going to cost you an arm and a leg to scale out after you finish the pilot. And have external expert who can recommend choices that are specifically fit for office designers. Build cross-functional AI teams early onward. Designers, data analytics, AI specialists, again, people who are shadow AI users in your companies, clearly define roles and expectations for collaboration on your cross-functional teams and what the different roles will be in making decisions around generative AI. For example, you might decide that before a new generative AI process touches client data, then you will first run it by a cross-functional AI team. Promote regular communication to integrate perspectives across your organization as a whole. and invest in AI-specific training for your existing employees. Again, going back to helping your employees be comfortable with using generative AI. Use your external experts to accelerate the effectiveness of your team and the implementation of generative AI in your company. Phase integration. Start small to minimize risk. That's going to be getting your pilot projects, and then it will help you gain some insights on what you're doing. Have those pilots within controlled sandbox environments. So have small scale build outs. Document the learning before having a broader rollout. Clearly identify what success looks like at each stage so that you know, okay, here's what success looks like at this stage, it's this stage with good metrics. And you'll gradually increase complexity as your confidence grows. What about scaling successful pilot projects? Analyze pilot outcomes before expanding use, and you'll want to be able to change some things around and adapt them before you scale them out. Share pilot success internally to build enthusiasm, get feedback, again, for transparency. People should know that you're being transparent and honest about what you're doing. Develop clear protocols based on your pilot experiences. So people who are more skeptical / less skilled, that they know what to do and they are given quick, clear guidelines. That's very important because there are going to be people who are going to be confused. Again, people who don't know how to use generative AI, who use the search tool. You want to give people guidelines and mental frameworks for how to use them. Roll out AI tools to additional teams incrementally based on, especially if the manager of the team is excited and she or he is pushing it, if there are lots of team members who are excited. So that excitement is really important to have that intrinsic motivation. And refine methods based on new feedback and share that feedback across the company. What about the budget? Budget clearly for software licenses and hardware upgrades. So that's going to be quite important. That's obviously for any software project you want to think about budgeting, but it's especially important here to have training and ongoing support. AI is evolving very quickly. So you not only need to have licenses and hardware upgrades as needed, but you want to have training, extensive training, continuous over time learning as AI improves. Factor in potential productivity gains and long-term ROI. That's the only way it will really make sense for you. And that's the accurate way to think about it. The long-term gains, productivity gains are huge benefits. Anticipate regular software updates and subscription costs. So right now, for example, I easily pay $200 per month for the ChatGPT Pro. That's a great tool for me and for my needs. And so that's an example. You might not need that for every employee at your company, of course. And you want to know, okay, who is it worth paying? Some people you'll definitely will want that tool and the equivalent of that tool, and they will get much more than $200 value from it in terms of time savings. Other people don't need it. So you want to know who needs it, what's needed, and have the appropriate ROI. And external experts can help you optimize investment decisions so you spend the appropriate amount of money and not too much, not too little, in order to get the right ROI. Now, let me tell you about a client I worked with so that you get a sense of how this works. It's an architectural and office design firm of about just under 50 employees, so 40-ish employees. They had internal pressure for rapid and customized designs, as do all of you, I'm sure, and had limited expertise with generative AI technology, so not that much expertise. They were concerned about employee resistance and job security fears. Probably a number of you have this. The goal was to smoothly integrate generative AI to stay competitive going forward and perhaps be on the cutting edge. Okay, phase one. First, we conducted a needs assessment to identify what are the optimal AI tools and selected Cubic AI for automated space planning and Midjourney for rapid image generation proposals. So those were the tools, with in addition, Autodesk Fusion for large-scale design projects. And that was matched to the firm's scale and budget. So that's kind of what we selected based on our initial conversations. Then, pilot projects. We established cross-functional team with designers, analysts, AI experts, and again, the AI experts were folks, I mean, I was part of the team, but then mostly they were people who were already using generative AI inside the company. I led some employee training workshops with hands-on AI experience, and executed 2 pilot projects over 6 months to try things out. Again, those are long pilots, but they were very worthwhile. One was a small remodel, and one then a large-scale redesign. We had transparent communication and to ease employee concerns as we were going through these pilot projects. Now, we've reduced preliminary design phase timelines by 50 to 70%, depending on the project, which was great. Increased internal productivity by over 30%, and 85% of the staff and pilots reported comfort and enthusiasm using these tools. So that was great. We adjusted some things, we rolled it out to everyone and the project design teams. We provided ongoing expert-led training and mentorship support. And the results, we reduced average preliminary design timelines by 30 to 40%. So again, not quite as much as these pilots for obvious reasons. We increased client satisfaction scores by 25%. We had consistent tool usage by over 70% of employees. Productivity increased by over 20%, and the headcount was reduced by 5% due to natural attrition of staff who couldn't use generative AI tools effectively. So, key takeaways for you to think about. Leveraging generative AI for office design. It helps you accelerate customized and more efficient office designs. It complements human creativity instead of replacing it. It doesn't replace it, like I said. Early adoption helps position your firm ahead of your competitors. Project pilots and external experts will build internal confidence, which is really important. Have clear communication, training, and risk management on these tools, and have a clear plan for generative AI adoption, which will be aligned with your business goals. All right, the additional resources, I'll send them to you if you're on that call. If you're not, you can go to tinyurl.com/DAE event to get the resources. I'm going to be a link to the slides, a copy of my best-selling book on ChatGPT, and free coaching for integrating these strategies into your work. And I'll be happy to take your questions at this stage.
Hi, Gleb. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you very much for that. We're under really acute time pressure, but thank you very much for that. I'll just see if anybody's got any questions because it's easier for me to go to the room there. So does anybody have any questions? No? No. No? Thank you very much. It's that was absolutely a whistle-stop tour of generative AI. So thank you so much. And we get a copy of the video, don't we?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. And you've got the names of the participants, and I'm sure some of them will reach out to you. So thanks ever so much.
Thank you, Clive. Have a
All
great day,
right.
everyone.
All the
Bye.
best. Thank you. Cheers. Bye bye. Bye bye.